So clearly you've been giving this issue a lot of thought, and I'm curious as to why you still haven't made up your mind whether a salt spring incorporation is a good or a bad thing. Um, what's your leaning, and how do you expect to vote?
Yeah, it's been a real conundrum. I don't know why I'm so divided on this decision this time. Last time it was pretty cut and dry. I was a no vote right off the bat. You know, I love Salt Springs, anarchistic, kind of free, freedom from any kind of close governing capability, and I certainly appreciate that the Islands Trust doesn't have much of a mandate that goes beyond land use. They keep trying to expand that mandate, but I'm actually quite relieved that it doesn't go much further, because I don't think the organization itself can be an effective governance, simply because it's based on an ideology, and the idea that we can't have like an opposition party involved in that governance. Normally, with governance, you've got the ability to elect the opposition if you're not happy with the currently elected officials. And with the Islands Trust, you're just kind of changing trustees who already agree with the same ideologies. So it's very difficult. In rare cases where we've had a couple of trustees get elected where they haven't been basically trust aficionados.
And this division between kind of an unregulated island and one that could be more regulated under a municipality is a significant part of this decision for you?
Well, I think the whole issue is clouded by this notion that we're suddenly going to have to deal with roads, police, and basically take responsibility for the very services that we actually use. And that to me, that doesn't really fly with me, because I think that local people should be responsible for their local services and conditions. And as much as everybody suggests that roads would bankrupt the system, clearly on Bowen, they make those decisions by prioritization every year when they put together a budget. So I don't expect it would be much different here. If we didn't have the money for roads, we simply wouldn't do roads, and you'd live with them the way they are. And I think that's it's a big mistake to think, when you look at the sum total of all the new responsibilities that we'd be taking on, that suddenly everything would be happening at the same time and we'd be overwhelmed somehow.
Uh-huh. Well, I voted no last time, okay? 15 years ago, I was adamantly opposed to the concept. It was not something that I saw Salt Springers really wanting, and certainly to me it just represented another layer of governance on top of the layers of governance we're already under. And I know a lot of people are making the argument that this is not going to be the case. I still say that when you open up the possibility to a whole new infrastructure of governance, you're going to have to replicate almost redundantly a lot of the staff required and just the expenses, rent, building a community center, basically a hall. So that really concerns me.
Well, a lot of people feel a little more passionate about this decision than I do. I've never been a big fan of governance to begin with, so I don't know what the enthusiasm here is on that level. But I do have an incredible respect for the people who take civic responsibility and prioritize it in their lives. So if they're going to meetings, if they're having to keep up on things, if they're compelled to, let's say, then I appreciate that. I appreciate that they get back to me and they tell me that things are happening when I'm unaware of all the different factions that are, vying for budget increases. I think on the positive side, I somehow feel that voting yes this time is really just a vote of confidence in the island, a vote of confidence in the people who take a civic interest in policies on Salt Spring, and I'd like to give them, I'd like to empower them with a legitimate tool to bring it all together and centralize the decision making, prioritize things accordingly. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of in that respect, because all politicians, that we've elected have been elected by us. So we've obviously created a reasonable democratic representation for ourselves here. There's no reason to worry that would be suddenly changed because we have an actual entity in place that has a much broader mandate to deal with everything.
So how are you ultimately going to make this decision on September 9th? Because clearly there's not you're not falling on one side or the other very strongly.
Well, yeah, I've said that I'm going to flip a coin on September 9th, but not in a vacuum. Okay, I will have spent, as everyone has, months talking and voicing my opinion and listening to others' opinions. And I believe that when you flip a coin, you're not just going with a 50-50 result. You flip that coin, heads I'm going to vote yes, tails I'm going to vote no. Boom. Tails it says no. In my mind, if I feel like flipping again, then I already know what I actually want to do. And that will have been the sum total of my subconscious kind of contemplating all the variables. And yeah, it sounds flippant to flip a coin, but it just tells you right away if you want to flip again, you know exactly what your answer is. And yeah, so yeah, that's why I'm going to do it that way and hope for the best.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right.